So today I'm going to be talking about the Hundred Years' War, and this is the third part, and I'm going to be talking about the second period of the Hundred Years' War, and that is the Caroline period, or the Caroline era, or the Caroline War, however you want to call it. It goes from 1369 to 1389, and it's named after Charles V. Just as the Edwardian era, the Edwardian phase, or whatever, was named after King Edward III of England. So yeah, let's get started. Well, the first phase ended in 1360, and then a few years later, Charles V said, "Hey, let's get the war going again because we're France and it's England. It's hate." So, well, they went back into war, and they actually started out doing quite nicely. So, France was still the most developed kingdom in Western Europe, and England was behind France in that sense. And, well, England only really had for itself quite successful, quite good military leaders. However, most of these by this point had died or were getting old. The king, Edward III, was too old, and the Black Prince, so son of the king, was sick, so he was quite useless. He was quite a valuable part of the first phase, and then the king was just too old. So in 1370, right before New Year's Day, right before, the English Seneschal of Poitou, John Chandos, I probably pronounced half of that incorrectly. I just had that written down. Well, a guy called John Chandos. Just let's make it easy. A guy named John Chandos was killed at the bridge at. Let me try this. Lussac-les-Châteaux. Well, this guy, he was the commander for the English army, or the British army, I think. No, not the British. Oh my God, the English, not the British. That's still 400 years into the future. 350 anyway. So this was an English commander, and he was very successful, and he had quite a few men under his belt. However, when he died, that really hurt the English cause, and this guy called John III of Brayley, the capital of Book, again, English guy, quite significant, was captured and imprisoned by France. So that didn't help the English cause. Well, so far, the French are not doing too badly for themselves, They've captured two important English commanders. Well, one of them died, but you know what I mean. So, yeah, it's going quite well for the French so far. Well, there were a series of campaigns commanded by the French, which managed to avoid major English forces, but it was quite successful, really, because they were retaking territories like, say, Bergerac in 1377, and previously Poitiers in 1372, and they managed to successfully, retake these lands, but also just avoid the English, which quite helped the French cause. So that was quite good, and also demoralized the English. So it was a win-win, You win back your territory, but you also demoralize the English, because, yeah. So that for the French was très bien. So, well, yeah, after some of these campaigns by the French, the English had to do something, and, well, they just launched military expeditions. They just sent men towards the French in a quite destructive manner. Yeah, well, these expeditions were called chevauchés. Again, pardon my French. And this was kind of an effort of total war. This idea of total war is really significant in warfare, obviously. It basically means putting all the resources available into the war. Literally everything, any type of production for the war, any available person for the war. It's just anything you have put it towards the war. This was really useful in the 100 Years' War. And in really any other major conflict after that, really, well, in Germany, Nazi Germany, they actually tried this in 1943, and then they started implementing it in 1944. However, it was too little, not too little, but they did do a significant amount of stuff, but it was too late. Anyway, so, total war. Well, this total war was the time to destroy the countryside and the productivity of the land, and recapture terrains, but it wouldn't be recapturing because it wasn't originally there, so it would be recapturing. Yeah, I guess. Just taking back terrains, not taking back from the French. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. So they just wanted to get the terrains they had taken from the French back. But this guy, Du Guesclin, he just didn't want open battles. He participated in very few battles in his military career. And that's why he didn't really advance that much. That's why the French were doing quite well, because this guy just didn't want to engage the French in the field. And I mean, I'm not saying that he was a total failure. He had quite a successful military career, but if he had done more battles, the English could have done differently, I guess. And and by they I mean the campaigns, were quite successful, despite not being in the open field, I mean. And they ran until 1380, which was when he died. So yeah. So in 1372, the English kind of commanded the sea, the channel. They dominated that since the Battle of Sluis. And well, yeah, this kind of ended in 1372 because an English fleet was carrying not only supplies, but also reinforcements for the English forces that were in Aquitaine at the time. Well, they were destroyed by the Castilians from Spain, and just destroyed it and undermined the English, destroyed trade facilities, that kind of sucked for the English. So in 1373, John de Gaunt, quite a significant guy, he commanded this thing that's quite famous if you've read on the period. If you haven't, you're not gonna know what it is, but if you read on the period, you'll know what I'm talking about. The Great Chevauchée. And he was actually launched right between two of the deadliest epidemics England has ever had, Europe has ever had. The Black Death, because who doesn't love Black Death? So between the epidemics of 1369 and 1375, right there in the middle, 1373, and the Black Death, well, kind of sucked about it, apart from the moral, people dying, was that the economy had just plummeted. So he was struggling to find funds. He did, but it hurt. I mean, it took a while. It also hurt. Well, in this chevauchée warfare, well, the English kind of were amazing in that sense. They actually were renowned for being so destructive. And by amazing, I mean from the English perspective. Say you're French and you read about this, you're not gonna like it. But if you're English, you kind of will. Not necessarily, but you know what I'm saying. So, well, I mean, I've said chevauchée, I haven't even said what it is. And this is essentially just leading an army into enemy territory and burning villages, houses, whatever, as you go along, just burning villages. And this would not only devastate morale, which also kind of helped, but also would burn, possibly kill some of the people, also reduce the money paid from tax collections. And this way was really effective. Like I said, they were renowned for this. They went into an area, right? Walk into an area, see houses, villages, whatever, set them on fire, attack, then go back, retreat, not retreat, but just go back. And the enemy, by the time they got there, they were already gone. It was kind of big brain, So, yeah. This tactic was done, had been tried before during the first phase of the 100 Years' War, so they knew it would work. And it did. I mean, I guess the French could have anticipated it, but not really. So, yeah. However, while after this happened, the English forces, some English forces were kind of ambushed by a French commander called Olivier de Clisson, and around 600 Englishmen were killed because of this. And most of the French, also the English had tried to escape. They had lost their luggage, their equipment. They had lost a lot of stuff in rivers, and they had their little provisions. And the fighting kept on going. So John de Gaunt, he kept on advancing to France, and at one point, which was on Christmas Eve, coincidentally, funnily enough, in 1373, he reached Bordeaux, and I mean, you can probably tell this by now, but his army was just tired, hungry, half starved. They just wanted to rest, and with this chevauchée, they had lost a lot of men, a lot of knights, a lot of equipment, a lot of resources, and not to mention, like I said, the moral implications of it. So, now I'm going to talk about the Treaty of Bruges. There are so many Treaty of Bruges, I cannot tell you how many there are, because I've seen quite a few of them. So, I'm talking about the 1375 one. I know for a fact Henry VIII signed another one, so yeah. So it was this treaty between, you guessed it, England and France, funnily enough, and it was signed where Belgium is now. Now is, in modern day Belgium. And this meeting wasn't actually called because the French wanted it or because the English wanted it. It was called because the Pope, at the time, Pope Gregory XI, Gregory XI, wanted it. And it wasn't. I say France and England. You wouldn't have seen the King of England and the King of France there. So, for the French, Philip II, Duke of Burgundy, represented them, and for the English, John of Gaunt, he represented the English. And the English said, "Hey, our English Edwardian territories, can we have full authority on them, please, because we kind of deserve it?" And but however, the French said, these Plantagenet provinces, Plantagenet being the House of England, Royal House of England at the time, all these resources you guys have, technically it's a French house, so can we, get them back? Can we just keep them? So that didn't help. The war resumed again. 1377 because of this conflict. And well, by 1376, the Black Prince had died, and then a year later, Edward III himself died. But before he did, he actually sent for peace negotiations, but of course, he died. So that was kind of a big failure. And yeah, well, a few years after that, so like 3 years, the King of France himself died. He was succeeded by his son, Charles VI. And he was placed in the Regency because he was 9 months old or 6 months old. He was a young child, so they couldn't. 11. He was 11. He couldn't really, rule. So he was given tutors. Yeah, advisors, So while he was dying, he even said, this taxation that we need to fund the war effort, I'm going to repeal this, so there we go. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, one must note that Charles V's support for the Pope, Avignon Pope Clement VII started the Great Schism. And if you want to learn more about the Great Schism, you can watch my video on it. It's from a while back. It's on the same playlist as this one. It's on the European playlist. It's somewhere there. So that's pretty much it. That is the Caroline phase, Caroline era. It's just it's a kind of huge French victory if you think about it. It's just French victory after French victory. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's all I want to say. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it interesting. And yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.